Hey folks, this is Dr. K, and in this series of videos, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about and at least partially walk through how to set up a text-based adventure game system using Java. Okay? So, for those of you who are not aware of text-based adventure games, it's something that was popular a long time ago when computers first came out. And basically, you type a command, and then you get you type a command in text, and you get a textual response. Okay, so the example I like to use is one called Anchorhead. If I type in Anchorhead online, I think this one just kind of talks about it, and I think this one is the actual online thing. So here is the game. So press any key to begin. And this is the intro, okay? Anchorhead is a New England town, and you're playing as a woman whose husband has recently moved to Anchorhead or was offered a job at a university in Anchorhead, okay? And if I just hit another key, this is telling me that this is the first day. And this is where the game actually begins. It begins outside the real estate office. Here's a short description of where you are and which directions you can go, what you see, things like that. And basically, you want to get into the real estate office, so you try to, the lane ends here at the real estate office, which lies to the east. So you can just type in east, and the door seems to be locked, and you get the same response if you say open door. Seems to be locked. If you say unlock door, it assumes it's looking for an object that you don't have. So it's looking for what are you unlocking the door with, and all it sees is the sky. This is actually not ideal programming of this game. So if I say something like unlock door with key, you can't see any such thing, and what it's referring to is I'm saying key here, and it says I can't find a key. Usually what you do is you go find a key, that you take the key, and it goes in your inventory. So if you type inventory here, inventory, it'll say you're wearing your wedding ring, trench coat, and your clothes, and you have your umbrella. So, if I would say unlock door with ring, wedding ring, that isn't even a key. So it's looking for a key. Let me go back to here's what I had. So that's kind of what we want to develop here using Java. And in fact, we're going to restrict ourselves to Java 8. All right, just to have kind of some constraints. And we already talked about the Anchorhead that you can play with online. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a remote repository, and then I'm going to connect to that repository using IntelliJ, and put some things into that repository. All right. So the general workflow for this entire development system will be create an empty repository on GitLab, clone the repo to one of your machines. So I'll be using my MacBook with IntelliJ. Create a new branch So that's a Git thing. We're always going to create a new branch when we're working on a new feature. So the first feature will be to implement the game in the to implement the outline of a game in the console. It won't be a full-blown game. It will be just something that echoes your input, essentially. And then we're going to write all the code for that branch. We're going to commit everything in that branch and push it to the remote repository. And then we're just going to keep going. Repeat steps 3, 4, and 5 for each new branch. Okay, so let's go. Let's see if we can get through this first branch here. Let's see if we can create the repo and then get through the first branch. And this is just going to be the feature branch strategy I have mapped out. This is not done yet, so some of this may change as we go along. I'm going to try to stick to feature 1 being a basic console application, feature 2 being a basic swing application, and feature 3 introducing rooms into the game. So after that, I'm not sure it's going to map to this, strategy. Like, we might introduce items before we introduce doors or something like that. We might talk about commands before we talk about items. All right, so things like that. But let's go ahead and get started. So I said the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to set up a remote repository. I want to clone that repository to my local machine, and which is going to have IntelliJ on it. So let's go ahead and do that. So here is GitLab. And this is not just GitLab, but this is Virginia Tech's GitLab. All right. So this is code.vt.edu. And I'm in my dashboard here where I have these projects. You can see Gregory Kulchetsky, that's my name. So these are my repos. In fact, these are my starred repos. These are the repos I've kind of starred. And let me see if Java 8 Adventure is the one I was playing around with. So I'm going to create a new project. And this is going to be a new blank project. Okay, I'm not going to import it from anything, not going to use a template. I'm going to call this Java. Okay, Java 8 Adventure. So I've already got one named Java 8 Adventure, so I can't create this, although it's allowing me to create it in Greg WK demo group. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use my user, and it's probably not going to let me create this because I've got one called this already. I'm just going to call this Java 8 Adventure Walk, because this is kind of a walkthrough of how to do this. All right, by default, your repo is always private in GitLab. That's how we like it. So keep it private, and then we're going to create the project. Okay, and in fact, right off the bat, I'm going to give it a star. So I have a lot of projects, and I need to keep track of them. So when I look at all my repositories, I see the starred ones by default. So I should see Java 8 Adventure Walk, and there it is right there. Okay, right now it has pretty much nothing in it. It does have a README file, so if you create one, it'll automatically, unless you tell it to not to have a README file, you will have a README file. All right, and what I'm going to want to do here, the first thing I'm going to want to do here with GitLab is I want to create an access token. So I can log into, so I can see all my repos on IntelliJ. Okay, so I've created a repository on GitLab, and now I want to be able to see that repository in IntelliJ. And if you want to see if you have any access tokens already, you go to your image up here, your profile image, you click on that, and you go to Edit Profile, and there's something called Access Tokens right there, and you can see that I have no personal access tokens. I usually do. I usually have one that's IntelliJ integrated access token, but I've already deleted that. And you can create a new token here, and you can put that directly into IntelliJ manually. But there's an easier way, and that's the way I'm going to show you. So remember this page. It will take me to this page when I try to create an access token from within IntelliJ. So I'm going to open up IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition. It's probably going to open up to Java 8 Adventure, but I don't want to use this one. I want Java 8 Adventure Walk. So I'm going to create a new project by hitting Clone Repository. Okay, and I want to clone a GitLab repository. And you can see I've already got the GitLab plugin here. And I've already put code.vt.edu Greg WK here. All right, and I'm also already logged in here. Okay, I'm logged into GitLab here, so you should be logged in if you want to create your access token. So I'm gonna click on this, and it says the authorization token was revoked. That's because I manually revoked it. So just to show you how to create an access token from IntelliJ. So I'm going to click login again. And one thing I could do here is I could just create an access token manually and then copy and paste it and put it right here. Okay, I could create one manually here by saying add new token. I could give it a name like IntelliJ access token or something like that. But I want to do it this way because this is the way I always do it, and it's so much easier. So I'm going to click generate here. So I don't have a token, so I'm going to generate it. And you see I'm already logged in here. It takes me to the personal access tokens portion of GitLab. And it says, do I want to add a personal access token? It takes me to adding a personal access token right off the bat. I'm not going to put a token description in here because I think this token description, the token name is pretty good. IntelliJ IDEA GitLab Integration Plugin. All right. So basically, this token is for IntelliJ. For my expiration date, I'm going to change this to the end of the year. It's always good policy you want to give it an expiration date. So I'm going to change this to December 31st of 2025. And this is nice too. When you use IntelliJ to do this, all the correct scopes are automatically selected. The API scope and the read user scope are the ones you need. Okay, so now all I have to do is create personal access token. And it says, do I want to copy my personal access token? I don't think I have to since I used IntelliJ to create this. But let me copy it anyway. I get concerned about this because it says make sure you save it. You won't be able to access it again. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to go back to IntelliJ and see if I can see my repositories. So let's go ahead and I'm going to close this tab. I've got this copied just in case I need it. I'm going to get out of here. I'm just going to go to this new tab, and then I'm going to go to IntelliJ. And now I'm going to click on this. All right, actually, let me do the clone repository again. And now I'm going to click on this. The authorization token was revoked. Okay, so I'm glad I copied it because now I've got to paste it in here. Okay, and now I should be able to log in. And yeah, so I can see all of my GitLab repos, and that's what you want. You don't want to deal with creating it. I mean, unless you're required to, you don't want to deal with creating an access token for each individual project, which is something you can do. All right, and there's my latest repo. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that, and I want to clone this repository because I want a local copy of the repository on my machine. Okay, on my machine. And it's going to go into, well, I'll show you where it is. Well, it's going to go into this directory, users, Gregory, developer, demo, Java 8 Adventure Walk. I'm going to go ahead and clone that. It says cloning repository here. Do I trust the project? Yes, I just created that project. I'm going to trust it. And it goes directly to the README file. Which is right there. And that is it. I have successfully cloned my project from my GitLab repo. And what I want to show you here, one of the things I want to show you is if you open a terminal window and you type in the command, first of all, let me show you this. When I list all my directories inside Java 8 Adventure Walk, and this little thing here is basically, it's saying that I'm on the main branch. It notices, I've got a little plug-in for my terminal that notices that this is that this folder is a Git project. And it tells me things like what branch I'm currently on, okay, which is the main branch now. But I want to I can type in some Git commands here. So I can type in like Git. One thing I always use, and you should know this, is Git remote-v. And that tells you what your remote repository is, okay? So this is my, what I'm working on is my local repository, okay, this is on my MacBook, okay, and this tells me what my remote repository is, and this is where I fetch things, and this is where I push things. So once I make all the updates I want to make, remember we said we're going to create a new branch, we're going to make all the updates we want to make, we're going to commit all those changes to the new branch, and then we're going to push it to the remote repository. So this is our remote push repo, which is code.vt.edu, gregwk, obviously yours will have your name, Java 8 adventurewalk.git. And this is our remote fetch repository where we clone the repository from. All right? So this is very cool, and especially if you're working with, multiple projects. And I have a GitHub account also, and sometimes I use a different GitLab rather than code.vt.edu. And I sometimes get confused with, which remote repository I'm working with. So this is the command git remote v. The other command to tell you about your remote repositories for this particular project. The other command I use all the time is git status. Okay, and this says your branch, you're on the main branch. It's up to date with origin main. Okay, there's nothing to commit. Your working tree is clean. So actually what I want to do here, the first thing I want to do is I want to check out a new branch. And you can do it from here. You can use like a git branch command. I can't remember exactly what it is because I never use it. But I always do it from IntelliJ. So this says this is the name of my project, Java 8 Adventure Walk. Okay, that's the name of my repo. And here's the branch I'm on. What I want to do is I want to create a new branch. And actually, before I do, let me see the slides here. So I want to make sure I follow these, kinda. So the other thing that I want to do, and this is important, especially if you're going to be the only one working on your repository, on your remote repository. I have a, I want to be able to work on my code on my MacBook using IntelliJ, but I also like to mess around sometimes using my Windows PC and VS Code, which is a different IDE. Okay, so I want to be able to develop on my MacBook using IntelliJ's IDE, and I want to be able to develop on my Windows PC using Visual Studio Code. Okay, and so that decision and that desire is going to force me to make some choices. So one of the things I want to do is both IntelliJ and Visual Studio Code have some configuration files. Okay, well, if I check out this project in Visual Studio Code, I don't really want to see the IntelliJ configuration files, and vice versa. If I want to check out this repository in IntelliJ, I don't want to see the VS Code configuration files. So I don't want those files to ever be pushed to the remote repository. All right. And in order to do that, I'm going to create a file called a gitignore file, .gitignore, which says here's the things to ignore when you're pushing things to the repository. Okay, the main repository. So that's one thing I want to do. And I also have an issue because I'm developing on Windows and I'm developing on a Mac. Well, Mac is similar to Unix. So there's an issue with line feeds. So line feeds in Mac and Unix are, you can use the characters \n to simulate a line feed. And in Windows, in certain files, like I think newer versions of Windows use the same thing \n, but in certain applications on Windows, it might, a line feed is just like a return. Okay, it's just like a new line in your editor. Okay, and in some applications in Windows, a return might be /n/r or /r/n \r/n. I can't exactly remember, but the point is they have different codes for line feeds, and we want to normalize that. We want to standard it and say, hey, use this code for line feeds. And there's a way to do that using a .get attributes file. I'm going to show you that too. So we want to show you two types of files you're going to need to add to your repository right off the bat. Okay, to enable give you the ability to work both on Windows and Mac, and give you the ability to work with both IntelliJ IDEA IDE and VS Code IDE. Okay, so we already talked about this feature branch strategy. So I'm going to create this branch very shortly here. But these are the files I want to add. This is the .get ignore file, and this is saying I want you to, when you're committing, I want you to ignore .idea, the .idea directory. If it has a slash after it, it's a directory. And I also want you to ignore the .vs code directory. All right. And I want you to ignore some build files. Like I want you to ignore the build directory because that doesn't have my source code in it. That has my .class files in it. I don't want to upload those to the central repository. The dist directory usually has like jar files that you create in order to distribute your project. I don't want to add those. All I want in the main repository is I want the source. Okay, I can always just recompile the source. So that's what I want. So therefore, I'm going to add this file, but I'm not going to add this file until I create a new branch. Okay, I don't want to do anything until I create a new branch. All right, so I'm going to try to stick to this. I'm going to try to be very disciplined in sticking to this. I'm going to create this branch. I'm going to add get ignore and get attributes, and then I'm going to add some code. Okay, and then I'm going to create another branch. So you'll see that we're going to try to stick to that as well as possible. Do I need to do anything else? So here's the first branch. Okay, this is my console application, and I'm going to start with the name feature. Sometimes these are called feature branches. Okay, it's for when you're adding a new feature to your code, but I'm going to call all of this stuff feature. My first feature is going to be the console application itself. Okay. And here's generally what it does, and here's the things I have to do. I have to create a get ignore and get attributes file, which we just talked about. I'm going to create a Gradle-like project structure for the application. Gradle is a build system that many tools use, many IDEs use. IntelliJ integrates very, very well with Gradle. Okay. And here's some other things that it does in the application. We're going to get to those in turn. Okay, but the first thing we need to do is we want to create this feature branch. So I'm going to just copy this. I'm going to go to IntelliJ, and I'm on the main branch now, and I'm going to create a new branch. And I'm going to call this branch feature 01 console. And I do this 01 because when you click on the branches up here, it shows them in alphabetical order. So it's just easier to know which is the latest branch you're working on. Because I'm the only person working on this project. Okay, so I can take a few shortcuts. I mean, a version control system is designed to enable multiple people to work on the same project, right? But there are certain shortcuts you can take if you're the only person working on the project. If you know that you're going to be use a disciplined approach, you're going to check out a new branch for a feature, and then you're going to do all your writing of the code, and then you're going to commit all those changes and push it to the central repository. Okay, so I'm going to check this branch out. I'm going to say create. And now you can see that I've still got the project name here, but here now I've got the feature branch I'm working on. So feature 01 console is the branch I'm working on. And again, if I went and did git status here, it's telling me that so git status, now it's saying on branch feature 01 console. Okay. Nothing added to commit, but untracked files are present. That's another thing. If I'm just working on this myself and I'm using IntelliJ, I'm not going to worry about untracked files. I'm just going to commit a bunch of files at the end. So you'll see that I'm not going to do the git adds, and IntelliJ is smart enough if I'm working on a git repo to know that files have been added. Okay, and I'll show you how to commit in a second. All right, but if I do the git remote v, it's still telling me that this is my remote repository. It says IDE project settings can be added to Git. I'm trying to think of what this does. If it's saying that I want to add things in the .idea, I actually don't want to do that. So I think I'm just going to say don't ask again, and if I need to fix this later, I'll fix it later. All right. All right, so we've got our new branch, and now we want to add those two administrative files, the .gitignore, and we want to add the .git attributes. So those go directly under our project folder. So new file, name .gitignore. Add file to Git. Do you want to add the following file to Git? .gitignore, yes. If you choose cancel, you can still add it later manually. I'm going to say don't ask again, and I'm going to say add, because I almost always want to add my files to Git. Okay, so now this file has been added to Git, and it's something that can be committed and pushed to the central repository. So I'm going to go back to PowerPoint here, and I'm just going to go use this. I'm going to copy this code here. This goes in my gitignore. So this is telling me to ignore everything in the .idea folder. And if I'm in VS Code, it's just telling me to ignore everything in the VS Code folder, which is fantastic. Ignore everything in the build folder, ignore everything in the dist folder. Okay, so that's great. And you can see that gitignore is green. That means this can be committed. But before I'm worried about committing this, I'm going to go ahead and add another file here, and that's going to be my git attributes. Okay. .git attributes. All right. And this is where this is just a 2-line file. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it here. And this is just a comment, normalized line endings. And this is all you have to do. You have to put a star, and I'm pretty sure that has to be can't remember if that's a tab or a space, but it is whatever it is here. It works correctly. And so now I've basically added 2 files. Okay, and I want to commit this to the branch, to my local branch feature 01 console. And so I'm going to go to the commit panel in IntelliJ, and I've got 2 changes. And does it tell me what those changes are? And commit message, I'm just going to say this commit adds git ignore that ignores and .vs code folders. Okay. And then it also adds git attributes. Whoops. Adds git attributes to normalized line endings. Okay, so this is my commit message, and you're always asked for a commit message. And if you're going to be very disciplined and just say, okay, I'm going to, check out a branch, make some changes, and then commit that branch and then push it. I always like to do commit and push. Okay, and I already know my push branches are my push, my remote repository is this. Okay, so I'm just going to hit commit and push. And it tells me, the files I'm adding, so I'm just going to go ahead and push that. And yeah, that all looks good. I don't need to create any merge requests. If you're working with a team and multiple people are, making changes to your code, you need to worry about merge requests. But since I'm the only one going to be working on this project, I don't need to worry about merge requests. What I will say is now I should be able to go into GitLab, and since I push this to the central repository, I should be able to look at Java 8 Adventure Walk, and okay, it has a README file, but I should also see okay, so this is the main branch, okay, but I can see that there's this feature 01 console branch, and look, that not only has the README, but that has the .git attributes, and that has the .git ignore. All right, so basically it has those 2 files. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. We've created our first branch, we've committed to that branch, and we've pushed it to the remote repository. We're not done with this branch by any means, because if we look at the strategy here for the first branch, we've just done this first bullet. Okay. And we want to do all this other stuff. Okay, so we'll do that in the next recording.